Hey guys, thanks for coming on my first podcast. My name is Sebastian Shields. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and this is Lost Hombres. Now, a little bit of background on, why I'm making this channel and why I'm starting this podcast and why I think it's important. I have really felt a deficit in our community and regarding people that can inspire men to be men. We have a lack of quality men who can lead. We have a lack of information. We're deep in a society of misinformation, people that want to take advantage of people, utilize people, and really take advantage of people's insecurities and not really build them up, teach them really toxic behaviors, toxic types of ways of self development, and really don't provide them with what's necessary to really become the people that they have the potential to be. And I want to provide people with a space and a place to be able to really build up their identity and build up their confidence and become somebody and learn how to be a man and really bring back this idea of being a gentleman, which I find is not in our society right now. Looking back, you saw a lot of people have discipline and understand how they could affect the people around them and how to develop the type of, emotional regulation skills that allow them to be the best versions of themselves. And right now, I'm just seeing a lot of people that are lacking the hunger to be better and the insight to even do so. So I think there's a combination of things happening. I think this is beyond just, surface level problems. I think we have a lot of societal issues, government issues, issues with organized religion and, cult mentalities. And there's a lot of people being misled by, people I think are out there to take advantage of people. And whether they know they're doing it willingly or not, it's definitely something that I see happening in our society and something I'm open to working towards changing and finding ways to really lead people to a better mindset and a healthier way of thinking. A little bit about my background. Let me say where I started my journey in college. I went to National University to get my bachelor's degree in child development. Before that, I got my AA at Grossmont Cuyamaca, but then I went to college. And then when I hit the university, I got my BA there. And then after I finished my BA, I'd been teaching preschool for a few years by that point. I started teaching preschool when I was 19. I taught preschool all the way up until I was probably like 25. I mean, I technically came back to it later, and we can get to that part later. But I ended up going and teaching preschool for several years. And after I did that, I was going to be a pilot in the Air Force. I was going to go to be a service member. So that was something I was going to do. Then something happened that changed my mind, and I ended up going back to college. I found out I'd only had to take two prerequisites. So I was like, and being a therapist was my dream since I was a young kid. So I've been 12 years old, 13 years old, wanting to be a therapist and help people in this world. So what inspired me to be a therapist? I know, well, I went to therapy as a kid, and it really helped me out, and it gave me a new perspective, and I wanted to do that for other people at some point in my life, and here I am. But went back to college, went back to National University, got my master's degree there, which then allowed me a really awesome way of developing, my skill sets and getting a job. And my first experience in the field was during my internship, which I ended up interning for the San Diego Police Department. I was working with victims of domestic violence and abuse, and mainly children. Some moms, but mainly kids. So there was a program that we would work with people, and I would work at pro bono with people who couldn't qualify. So that was one way I kind of got my foot in the door with therapy and kind of get some insight on how things worked on different elements, especially with police and victims and stuff like that in the law. Even working with people that were in other programs and stuff that were outside of my realm, but it was a cool way to get into the program. I went back to teaching preschool for a little while because I was recently married and had a kid on the way, and I had to get money on the table fast. So I went back to that. That didn't work out after a while, so I said I have to get my license and get this going. It was like a sign that it wasn't the right field for me, and I needed to push myself. So then I ended up getting a job, interestingly, in where I lived in Campo at the time, Wheeler East County over there in San Diego. And after I did that, I got a job working for the local clinic, Mountain Health, and this one program called Smart Care, which is like working for low income residential families in like the Farm East County area to kind of give them more support, especially with mental health. So it was like a county program essentially. So I ended up working there for a couple years. It went really well. It was pretty crazy. I had a lot of crazy stories that I probably can talk about someday, and the things I've had to experience to get to where I am today. You don't get to being the person you are in life without adversity. And I'm definitely a reflection of a lot of adversity. And to be able to get to where I'm at in my life and, be able to talk to you right now and be as confident as I am, it's because of all the adversity I've been through. But so I started working at this place, got a lot of experience working with, the general population, a lot of social skills because I was doing a lot of social work. I was developing social programs to teach mental health while supporting the local community, finding out what the community needed, creating resources for community members, and just really getting to know my community, even though I lived there. So it's kind of cool to have a little bit of both. Also kind of weird to have a little bit of both because you know too much and you don't want to know everything, but it's just what happens when you're in a small town and you're the only one that can really provide. So it was a really good way to get my my middle hours, the ones that you're developing before your licensure. So I was able to get those hours in, start the process there. Again, crazy stories, that place. After that, so I started working with a lot of guys that were coming from this program called the Freedom Ranch. And they started just working with me, and I really enjoyed the process. And I got a phone call and an invitation, and next thing you know, I'm getting a job offer saying, what's it going to take? Which then I was like, throwing out some, they threw out some crazy number at me. I was like, you know what? I'm down. I was like, whatever. That's going to pay a lot more than what I'm making right now. So I ended up, working at a rehab for several years. And that's another program where I worked there for probably almost 3 years, developed their mental health program. So, still working on my licensure while pretty much making a drug Medi-Cal program on my own. So I had to figure out the mental health side of things, help with making notes, creating stuff, a lot of long sleepless nights and crazy stories. And, but I learned a lot about what it meant to be a man because prior to that job, I worked with mainly women. So as a preschool teacher, mainly women. College, mainly women. When I was in university doing my master's degree, it was mainly women. There was like 3 guys and like 30 women. And that's pretty much I think I was like the only guy in the preschool one. Maybe one other guy sometimes. I'd see another guy. But, obviously very much, woman-dominated fields, and that's what you're going to see over there. So I'm over here for the first time working with dudes, which was it's like a culture shock, you could say. I went from being the man out, literally the odd man out, literally, to one of the guys. So taught me a lot about what it went to work with men, what it was like to be in a completely different environment. It was a men's only program. It was the first time I worked with a bunch of convicts, guys off the streets, guys that are trying to keep their lives together, guys that have their lives completely falling apart, guys coming from prison. I mean, you name it, I probably work with it, Every chamber of life, addiction doesn't care. Let's put it that way. Addiction is across society. So we know it's a multicultural, humanistic thing that we have. So it was a really interesting way to meet a lot of men and learn about men's topics and really get to know a bunch of men that I got to inspire and help grow and probably change the lives of too. So it was a really humbling experience to work at a rehab. Really my favorite times was being able to, be in these groups and these guys like, what the fuck is mental health? What is this? And it's like, all right, you know what? You right. What's up? Like, you right? Let's get it down. And then, you start talking and then they start listening because you got something to teach them. You got something new. You were inspiring them. You also listened to them. You validated them. And okay, you know what? Fair enough. I was like the guy that interviewed all of them. So by the time they got in the program, I'd already done the assessment. So they already knew me. We got to know each other. And next thing you know, people that are in my class are like, yo, this is awesome. Yo, this is a good time. It was literally an extra class. And some people would come sign up for my class. They're like, yo, let me get in that. I want to get in that class. We'd be doing meditation. We'd be talking about, mental health topics, teaching them dating tools, teaching them life skills, just everything. We would talk about all kinds of topics. And that's probably one of the biggest inspirations for why I'm even talking to you guys today, was because I remember being able to inspire men that were twice my age and give them something to think about. And I wasn't even the person I am today. You know, that guy was a shell of who I am today. That guy is half a version of what I am today. I'm actually half a version of him. If you really, we'll talk about those days one day too. But um, I learned a lot about what it meant to be around a bunch of men who just need support. Be men that are just lost, that they just need some guidance, that they just need someone to help them understand. I've had men that have come up to me years later, you know, hey man, you really helped me. Hey man, that was awesome. You really inspired me. And that's just such a good feeling to have, that you were able to do something for these guys' lives by just talking to them. I healed what I like to call their soul. I like to think of myself as a healer of the soul. I don't have medicine. I don't have any kind of surgeries, but I can make people feel better. I can help people get clean and stay sober, right? And stay away from fiending, stay away from being that person and trying to escape, and just learning how to be the person they want to be. Be a man. Be the man that they know they can be. Be that respected person that's in there, right? That sometimes lost its way. But again, they're not mechanics for the car yet. They need someone to sit there and say, hey, this is how you fix this car. You don't just fix it for them, you teach them. And so later on, they're these little mechanics. They can fix their own problems. They appreciate what they bring to the world. They appreciate their consistency, their motivation for change. And they're able to see something different in themselves that they didn't see before. The potential to solve your own problems and create your own journeys and really find that fulfillment, right? Instead of being scared, what if I get lost? If I get lost, I'll find my way. I can make it. I can do this. I'll figure it out because I can trust that I have the confidence to be who I need to be. And I want to help guys become that. It was a really inspiring time for me. It was some of my favorite times. Was just watching these guys again. 20 years of prison. What the fuck are you gonna teach me here? What the fuck is this? Coming in here and be like, fuck this shit. Next thing you know, you saved my life, bro. Saved my life. That's the realest shit ever. They don't owe me shit. They don't owe me nothing. And they would come to be in an extra class. You got convicts, okay, who didn't even like being in a cell, wanting to come to a classroom, wanting to sit with me one-on-one, wanting to understand something that no one would just sit down and explain to them in a way they could break it down. Someone that could just speak to them on their level. Not down to them, but like a real man. Be like, yo, you get it now? Yeah, I get it. And if they don't get it, you work with them. Give them time to process. Let them learn. Respect them. But you got to live what? By being your own respect. Lead by example. So that place meant a lot to me. It influenced my life immensely. Now, why am I not there anymore is a whole other story for a whole other day. Okay? But at some point, my calling was to now do the next step. I was licensed, and it was time to, provide for my family. Because at this point, I had 4 children to take care of. Okay? And you guys know the economy, it is not doing well. So, I had to get ready to, and this was before, I guess this was after COVID. This is like the end of COVID. So, yeah, it was a while back, but still, it was on the rise, we could say, Being a single income dad, working as much as I could to provide, I had to figure out the next plan. Oh yeah, and there's other stuff. I play World of Warcraft. I'm a big WoW nerd, as you guys will see here. I'm a little bit of a nerd here. But I met a guy while I was playing the game who needed therapists for this drug counseling type of internship, not intern, temp program where you'd be a temp and you'd sign. But it was not I couldn't do it because there was too much sketchiness, and I'm like, dude, I have a new license and I don't want to deal with this. I'm good. So I let that go. I couldn't. It was too much. So after I got licensed, which I busted myself down, knew exactly what I needed, got my stuff together, boom, 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 sign, here we go, do, 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 do. Now ready to take the test, pass, woo, licensed. Now I'm just waiting for my actual licensure, waiting for my couple things, but things have gotten to a point where I need to change my life. And that first person, the first lady who I worked for, was a lovely lady. She's a great woman. Taught me a lot, taught me what I know about ADHD, and has inspired me to want to keep pushing forward, and has inspired me that I really can make a difference in the world, and here I am, so thanks to her, Dr. Silva. Anyway, so, after I reached out, and this person's the first person I worked, this was for my internship, leader. And so once I got licensed, I called back, and she said, private practice, here we go. So I got in private practice. Interestingly enough, the city that was across the place from where my city's at, not too far away, is an office, which happened to be her old office, So it was even cooler. I got to go work in Alpine and be part of the same office as the person that inspired me to get to where I was. And now I was in the same chairs, the same location. Here we go, right? And someone I'd, looked up to for years. So it was definitely a sign that this is the next step. Now, during this time, the other place I ended up, cutting ties, and I had to move on with my career, and that was it. I appreciated the ranch and everything I did there, and everybody there, and great experiences really made me the person I am today, and helped me become the man that I needed to be, and learned how to appreciate my life. Because, side note, my father wasn't that involved in my life, He is more now, which is awesome, but at times, that was a disconnect in my life. I grew up many years without having a figure in my life. And being able to be around these men really gave me some insight in how men work and how men operate, and what to appreciate about them, because I didn't have those very much in my life. So, working for private practice, this is an interesting time in my life, because while I was ending my career over here, I was going through some dark emotional times in my life, and just having a lot of my own struggles with anxiety and depression, and just a lot of problems, internally, insecurities and everything. Something that comes along with having ADHD's rejection sensitivity, which really got the best of me at times. I had this moment, this revelation in life. And these two things, I was watching a video on something, and something else came into my mind. I always had these theories when I was young, in college, and even before that the way we saw child development, there was something wrong with this. It didn't make sense. There was something missing with this developmental type. And I always thought, what the, there's something fucked up here, but I can't explain what it is yet. But, there's something not, this isn't how children develop. There's something off here, right? There was something missing in the conversation. But I couldn't explain it yet. I didn't have enough information, but I just could feel that this wasn't right. I was watching this video about, I don't know, somehow the ego and superego came up in my mind, or I was thinking about Freud, and he had this theory that there was this ego and superego. And these things, it was I was teaching him, I'd watch these little videos about a topic, and we find little 5-minute videos, and someone was talking about Freud and the ego and superego, and it made my brain click. Because when I was looking at it, I was id, ego, okay, so the id, and it's this, they named all these symptoms, and I'm sitting there that's just children. That's what kids do. And it made me laugh. And then it was the ego, and I'm well, that's just when kids are, that's the balance. It's when kids are kind of figuring out what's up, morality, consciousness. That's this stage of the development. And then when I was watching the last part, it was this is the superego, the thinker or whatever. And I'm that's just being an adult. What? Because I've been working with people. I know dynamics. I have children. I've worked with kids my whole life. I've been doing therapy for a while now, and I'm just sitting here that's connected to this. that's interesting. So I just started connecting things, and then one day I came to the classroom and I made a circle, and I was like, and he goes, I was like, do you guys feel this? Yeah. Do you guys feel that? Yeah. Do you guys feel? Yeah. And I'm like, does it sound like this, this, and this? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, it's a little kid. It's your kid side, and he did, yeah. And then we started figuring out like, well, what I figured out first was one is fun and one is being productive. And I was like, okay. So like this is getting things done and this is enjoying yourself to some extent. Like these are like things that little kids want, you know? And then I was like, that's what adults like are always lecturing you on doing. And I started making, and I would talk to the guys about it, and they're like, yeah, that's how my brain works. And then I started like figuring out like, huh, this goes with this and this goes with this. And then I think of stereotypes like from aging. I would think of different things that I would see like teenagers and how they all have these same problems, but they have the same abilities and disabilities, you could say. Like they could do this but can't do that. And then I was thinking about how from the second stage of development, like, oh, they start thinking about this, like future and stuff like that. And then the last part, I was like, well, that's when everyone's like, oh, I want to move out, be on my own. And I'm like, that's like the trope. You know, I've been through these stages. Everyone's been through these stages. And you start working with ages, you're like, well, that's what happens here. That's what. And here's the thing: I know about child development, which is like the beyond. It's like the psychology of before, you know. Because again, how are you going to do therapy with someone that doesn't really have consciousness? It's hard. It's very difficult to do that. So I ended up figuring this stuff out, and then I would like have conversations with them about this, and they'd be like, yeah. So then we talked about like, well, we need to balance it out. Like if you're not having any fun, you guys seem to get depressed. If you're not, because I think about little kids and I'd be like, you guys act like children sometimes. But then they'd like calm down. They'd like figure it out and they get more mature, and you're like, okay. So like they're kind of activating. And then I used to think to myself too, like I got to a point because we do AA stuff, and I'd be sitting there thinking, this is just teaching them how to be an adult. They come in as children, like, and they're like fiending and stuff. They're like stealing and stealing snacks and hiding things and calling people. You know what I'm saying? They're acting like it's like they think it's like summer camp. When they first get there, they're like, ugh, they don't care. They're like, yeah, I'm the cool kid. You know, acting crazy, acting out, all these problems and stuff. And then later on, they're like, the fuck was I doing? I'm a fucking idiot. You know, like, facts. And what I would do with them too is like when they'd be like, I'm a horrible father, I'd be like, yeah, you feel that? Yeah, that's how you feel because you are one. Like in your own mind, you are. So do something about it. What are you gonna do? And I used to say it to them, like, what are you gonna do about it? Okay, accept it. All right, that's the fact. You're a bad father. Because sometimes in therapy they would do the opposite. No, this person is telling me this is what I am experiencing. I'm not, and I love motivation interviewing because it just makes so much sense to me that you kind of roll with it. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to fight with them. That's their truth. You know, you can't tell people how they feel. So when they tell you, I feel like I'm bored, well, you do because in your mind, you've created that. You learn CBT, thoughts, behavior, you know, all these little things like that, little tools and stuff. So you're like, well, obviously, look at you. You're fucking telling me that you're a fucking piece of shit dad. Then you are one. How do you fucking change that? Well, when are you gonna fucking do that? I'm gonna do it. Okay, then fucking do it then. Or go ahead and accept that you're a bad father, fine. But it's up to you. You're the one that's gonna make the choice ultimately. So we would talk like that, and they would start changing. They would start saying, you're right, and they start feeling better. And so you'd see, right, when the guys that would work on themselves and put the effort, they'd start getting these differences. When they got out sober, they'd start turning on after certain days. Their whole demeanors would change. So I had a lot of these like signs that I could see these patterns playing out. Like, okay, they're getting better. They're doing this. This is how it's working. This is where we're having success. These are the guys that are not having success. And you see some differences in behavior, like different types of personalities, different background. Like I said, all these different varieties of things, but you're seeing these similar outcomes. So when you're seeing similar outcomes across cultural backgrounds, social, economic, that's what's human. That's human, you know? It's beyond all. So no matter what you're getting, the variety as you would get in a rehab, I had people from other cultures coming, other states coming, everything, didn't matter, right? So you're starting to see these commonalities play out amongst all these different roles. And then you're like, okay, that's interesting. There must be a common theme here. There's something going on here. So these are some examples of ways I've started really figuring out this idea that there was something going on here. And so the more I kind of put these tools together, the more I figured out that we have productivity, we have fun, and then productivity is what just adults do, and fun's what kids do, and then your ego is what you decide to do, and if you're imbalanced, then you're going to feel one way, because I'd be like, well, when you're not productive, what do you feel? Like, oh, I feel stressed out. Okay, that's anxiety. And when you don't play, I feel focused, and you're like, okay, that's depression. And so, like, I'm figuring there's something going on here that I'm starting to see, and it's making everybody make sense to the point where they actually are interested and they're using it, they're applying it, they're considering it. I'm getting guys, again, who never were intellectuals, didn't care. They've been in prison for 20 years and said, fuck all that. And they're coming in like, that's the first thing that's ever made sense to me. And it made sense too because they're in recovery, where they start out as little children, and then they calm down, they start being productive, and they start losing that. Because what makes them feel is they get overwhelmed with their anxiety and they want to turn it off, right? Or they just want to be kids, and the thing is that the adult brain's going to remind them the whole time. They're going to be like, but we'll get to that later too. We'll talk about kind of those things later. But so I come up with this like tool, this like idea, this concept. So when I go to private practice, I'm actually kind of doing both at one point. I go in there one day and I sit with one of my clients, and I'm like, and I start drawing the diagram. Like, this is, so first we start like this, yeah? And so I start like, we're little kids, right? And then you develop your ego, your individuality. I call it the ego because I didn't know what else to call it, the spirit. I didn't know that yet. I didn't know what it was. I was like, the thing in the middle, the thing that's consciousness. And then you have this adult later, and they'd be like, yep. I'm like, and then I'll do it again. And they'd be like, yep, that's how it works. And I was like, I'm just waiting for the person to tell me that this isn't going to be a thing. I'm just like, come on. And they're like, nope, that's how my brain thinks. And I'm just sitting there like, what's happening? Why am I seeing things that I didn't see before? So I'm like starting to create this thing that makes sense to everybody. Everybody I worked with. And they would get better. And then little by little, I'd start kind of doing like philosophy, like, all right. And I would start adding concepts. I would start thinking about like, okay, so what are feelings? And they're this. And I would be talking to a patient, and then I would make click, click, click. I'd be like, oh yeah, that connects to this. And or they ask me a question, and I would think about it. And I'd go back to like my frame of reference of these things, like the adult brain, the kid brain, and then like how people interact. And like, once you understand, you're like, okay, yeah, and it would just make sense to them. And it would make sense to me. And we had this method of communicating with this modality that I created where it just made sense. And we could sit there and they would be like, oh my God, this person, it was like a kid brain. And we're like a kid, and then we're like, oh yeah, and then this. And then they'd start changing like how they would act. They would start actively like putting in effort. Like when they feel anxious, they would work. And they'd be like, I feel better. Like, I feel like I'm getting stuff done. I feel productive. And when then we're depressed, I'd say, you need to do, and they do it. And they come back and be like, I'm able. And then I'd be like, okay. And they'd be like, well, I can't figure this part out. So then we would be like, well, why don't we structure it? And then when they'd structure it, they'd be like, oh, that works for me. And then I had my own personal development and growth. So mind you, on this other side, I created this tool, and I started like changing my life. At one point, I was 250 pounds. I was depressed and anxious. It was either I kill myself or I killed the person that I am, and I had to he died. I don't know where he went. He's gone. But I had to die. I had to kill that person. And so then I became myself. I gave myself an opportunity to work out, to get myself together, and I started changing like the thing I was teaching. I started implementing it, and it started working for me. And I was just feeling better. I had consistency. I would get my schedule. I had days that I knew I wanted off. I started validating my feelings. Even the day I remember I put food in my mouth and I said, I don't want this anymore. I spit it out. I pushed the plate away. Even though my whole life I'd been conditioned, Comete tu plato, which literally means eat your whole plate. Eat your whole plate. Even when you weren't hungry, they mean eat your plate. And you would eat it. And so then you had this like trauma. I have to eat it. I have to eat it. So you eat the whole plate and you don't eat it. And then you'd be bloated and you're like, why do I do this? Why do I do this? And again, this is when I started figuring out, wait, I don't have to do that anymore. I got to listen to myself. I'm saying I'm full. I need to do something about this. And I spit it out. And that was like the first time I conquered like my own like overeating. I was like, yes, I'm in control. Fuck you. Like, we did it. We did it. We took the step. We were able to control ourselves and make a better choice and understand ourselves and validate our existence. You know, let my feelings be real. Stop trying to let my brain control me and listen to my body. I started listening to my body. I started validating what my body, if my body said, I would listen. You know, I would give in to that. I'd be like, okay, we're gonna do this. And I would help myself get my needs met depending on what my desires were, right? So this really was the beginning process of me, you know, understanding this tool that I was developing. And private practice was an opportunity for me to really crank this up to 10. Because when I was in the other place, I only taught a couple classes. You know, I was mainly doing intakes, doing therapy, you know, helping review notes. I was doing 12, 13-hour days sometimes 14-hour days on a salary. Hey, but you know what? When you're doing what you want to do in life and career and you're learning something, it's invaluable, the experience you're gaining for the rest of your life, right? So I end up creating this tool and it's working for me and I'm able to apply it to people from all of my private practice where I start implementing this and implementing. And next thing you know, it's working and working and working and I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. And everyone's like, this makes sense to me. You make sense to me. You know, I had people coming in for years of therapy. Mind you, I've only been licensed like a year. And I'm getting people that are like, this is helping me understand myself. This is really opening up my perspective in my eyes. And so it gave me an opportunity to heighten my tools, really understand, have these really awesome personal conversations. I was seeing people on a variety of days, sometimes multiple days a week, sometimes, you know, every day, you know, because of whatever reason. I mean, all kinds of like different people from all kinds of different problems and backgrounds. And I just was working with everybody because when I first started, I was like, anybody 12 and up, I'm good. Now, since then, I've learned, okay, I'm going to say this real quick. When you work with children, okay, the laws that you're dealing with are like, the people, the problems, the struggles, oh, Jesus. It's not for me. I can't. I'd rather work with the most difficult adults, right? I've worked with all kinds of adults. But children, it's not the kids. It's the system. And I'm good with that system. I'll stick to adults. But anyways, so I get this tool. I'm in private practice, and I'm figuring things out, and it's just going great. I'm having a great time. But you know the problem. Sometimes when you're effective at your job, especially as a therapist, remember, as a therapist, my job is to put myself out of work. Yes, which is again, it's just part of the job. You know, you want people to get better, but when they do, you gotta get new people, and that's a process. So you're gonna lose people faster than you're gonna gain them. It's just how it works. And when you have mouths to feed, that can be very difficult. So I started taking a lot more hours. I was working like the maximum I could. I was working a lot of hours every day. And what ended up happening was, during my like separation, my ex, she had to deal with, you know, some mental health issues, but we found out that she's on the spectrum. And this was interesting to me because I didn't know what was going on with her. I couldn't figure it out. So a couple of things. She's got some other things, but the main one that really surprised me was the spectrum. Because our youngest, which is my stepson, he was was diagnosed as well. So that's a whole other situation and story for a whole other day. But yeah, he got diagnosed. So I had an idea of what it looked like to some extent in men and children. But when she got diagnosed, it really was like, that's what it is? Okay. And so there was times where my ex would remind me of my mom. And I'm like, why do you talk like her? Like, why you act just like her? And I used to think my mom was like a narcissist or had borderline or something. But she was more of a narcissist, really. But I was like, what is going on here? What is this? Well, when she got diagnosed, it started opening my eyes up. I was like, uh-oh. And it started making me see a pattern where I noticed ADHD people and autistic people were going like this. I had aunts and uncles and people in my life, and I just started seeing a trend. I was like, that's crazy. That's weird. That's suspicious. So yeah, it really fucked with me because I started seeing this pattern. I'm like, I think I'm going crazy because this is too crazy to me. How does this work out so much? But then it just made sense to me because people with autism are very like, do you love me? And people with ADHD are like, why would, yeah, of course. Why? You don't think I do? Am I not showing enough? That's crazy. Oh my God, what did I do? What am I doing? And it's this dynamic where we just end up together a lot. Now I have theories on why. Like I think that two people like typically there's some struggle with people with autism because once they get in their way, there's some fights that can happen. Okay, I've seen it play out. And two people with ADHD are so like wishy-washy that they're like, yeah, I'll talk to you, yeah. But then if they don't message you, then you don't message them, and then you're, you know. So some people have both, right? So I call them switches. They can be with, either one, right? But they're, sometimes if you have both, like your ADHD partner will be like, you really get me. And your partner with autism be like, that straight autism's like, why do you do that? It's kind of annoying. And just like, I can't help it. So there's some interesting dynamics to play out with these different disorders. And so that's kind of the thing that I noticed. And so it really blew my mind that I started seeing this pattern. I couldn't get it out of my head. And again, I didn't even really know much about the spectrum, to be honest, because I didn't learn a lot about it in school. It was always like that's the ABA, like other realm over there. But then once I started realizing really what autism was, it really blew my mind. I was like, whoa. And I really started to see patterns in society, patterns in behavior, patterns in the way the child brain, the adult brain. And I started getting all this information because of my own life experiences that really like opened up my mind. I was like, what the hell am I seeing? This is crazy. And I started talking to clients and patients about it. I was like, or mainly clients at that time because I didn't have patients yet. And they'd be like, that is how I work. That is what I feel. That is. And again, I started like, I could like predict behavior. I could predict what they were going to say. Like, did your partner do this? And they're like, how do you know? Or like, I'd be like, do you do this? And they're like, how do you know me? And they would just meet me like the first 2 days of like, I would just ask like, hey, do you do these things? I would be like random stuff like, do you sit in the same parking spot? Do you listen to music the same way? Or I was like, or do you have like heightened sense? Do you get this? Do you get said this a lot? And they're like, yeah. I'll be like, okay. And I would just keep going. And they're just staring. I actually didn't write anything. I mean, I guess at this time I would like write down like the intake information, before I would like, I don't know if I was writing and then typing it, but I knew she just typed it. But, I was doing the intake information and they'd just be staring at me like, how do you know me so well? This is weird. How do you know this stuff? And I would just be like, I know. And it was just so funny the way I could interact with people. And for a while, I was like, maybe the people who come to therapy are the ones that have these disorders, and that's why I see them more often. But then I just started realizing that there were other things that start coming up. Like, there's data that shows there's a lot of people that have Neanderthal DNA. And then once you understand Neanderthal DNA and the ideas and concepts behind how the DNA with Neanderthal and Homo sapiens don't connect very well, and there was some interbreeding that we know about. And it's like you hear all these little things when you're growing up, and then like, they all start coming together later and they just start making sense. And I used to say like, oh, I have a theory that autism and ADHD come from like Europe because like the people that conquered everybody and the way like autism works, like I can see where it comes from. It comes from here. I thought it came from like royalty and inbreeding. Because I'm like, it's gotta come from like, because like kings remind me of people with autism. Like, that must be there, and that must be there. Don't you dare talk shit, because I'll fuck you up. But anyways, everyone loves me, right? And then ADHDers, because we're like King Arthur. Like, I guess I'm gonna lead. Okay, people want me to lead. Sure, yes, I'm leading. But we're like, I want to please everybody. Autism's like, then leave. You don't like it? What's wrong with it? Explain to me. This is very like, you got a particular way of being. So it's funny to me seeing this, and I was like, interesting here. And this led to like more insight on how these disorders worked out, and it just really opened up my perspective when I was working with clients. And then again, I was predicting all kinds of stuff, and I've even had clients since those days get officially diagnosed, which is even funnier. It was like, you were right, you knew. And the cool thing was, I didn't even need people to get diagnosed to get better. Because my tool, this modality I created, I have a whole like system in place. There's like, it's systematic. And so the system is easy to apply. Because even someone on the spectrum who are very system-based type of people can apply a system. This is what it is. It's a system. It's like, I can do that shit. Hell yeah. And they're like, it works. And it's like they have a manual for their brain now. It's like, this is how your brain and body work. And they're like, deal. So they apply it, they can keep it, they can sustain it, and they're like, this makes sense. And they would just do better, right? So I started having success with autism, ADHD, and really seeing stuff, and I was like, this is great. But again, in private practice, if people don't show up, you don't get paid. And when there's bills to pay, and I have a bunch of problems happening, like in life with like just having 4 children and an economy that's not getting any better, and just all this stuff. And like when you make just enough money to make too much money, but not enough money to really make any money, and you're just like at the worst place to be, and they changed all the taxes after COVID. It was just a bad time. And I had to get another job. So I started looking for a salary, because I was like, I need a consistent paycheck. And so then I ended up working for Sandy Cedar Health, which is where I work at right now. And I also work at another place called Fusion Care Group, which is another place that's my private practice. And I work at these 2 places. And so I had to get a job. It was funny. They're like, why do you come in here? I'm like, I need a consistent paycheck. Private practice is too difficult to sustain. You know, I wasn't in need of a job, like in the sense of like, I'm desperate. I just need a job where I can get paid. Like I'm like, give me whatever. I'll work for it. Like, and it was like, so tell us about you. I'm like, well, here's me, and you know, and again, this is what I look like nowadays. I look a lot different from the days I started at Fusion. And one day I'll show the picture when I was at Fusion. You guys, you know, you started like that, yeah. But anyway, so I went to this new program, and I'm now working with Medi-Cal clients. So it's like 30-minute sessions. It's like go, go, go. And so I went from like an hour, you know, long session with my, you know, individual clients, and now I'm working in like, let's go, hospital looking like settings, like, you know, here we go, it's go, go. There's doctors here, there's psychiatrists here. It's go town, right? But it was like it was a good opportunity for me to really get my feet, you know, back into the field in a different way, you know, and work with like, again, variety of clients, patients. So now I'm working with people that are homeless, again, people that are, you know, having all kinds of troubles at home, low income, all military, again, like just a variety of just everything. And so it was a lot like when I was working in Mountain Health the first time, and I just so crazy. When I'm leaving Mountain Health in Smart Care, all that, Sunny Cedar Health bought them up. And I also worked at the clinic in Alpine, who also got bought up by them. So it was like right as they're getting bought up, I'm like, okay, I'm out and about, right? We're leaving here, and so I leave, and now I'm coming back to the place that I had just left a couple years ago, but like now on the other side of it, where I'm working for them now. So it was like I'm at the program now. So the people I used to work with, I work with them again, but in a different capacity, because now I'm one of them, you know? I'm one of the people now. So I started working for this place, And yeah, I've just got a lot of education from going back to working with the DSM-5 again and working with all these diagnoses. And then when they're telling you can diagnose all kinds of stuff, and I'm like, ooh, here I go. So it gave me a lot of really good experience to, you know, use my tool in a different capacity and setting. And what's been amazing since then, I've worked on PowerPoint, I've worked on videos, I've worked on TikToks, all kinds of different programs so that I can, start working on honing in and really refining my craft. And it's been a cool experience because, through being able to finish my PowerPoint, I've been able to use that with my patients and my clients. And it's given me a way to validate what I'm doing, validate the work I'm doing, and people are receptive to it. They're changing. I've had people come up to me and say, I'm actually happy for the first time in my life. I feel good. I'm secure. I've been able to get off drugs. I got my kids back. I'm getting married. I'm having another child. I separated from the person that I needed to get away from. I finally learned to say no. I found my just all kinds of amazing stories and amazing outcomes. And I'm working people at 30-minute sessions, and we're getting stuff done. We're working through it, and it just allowed me to really hone in on my tool and hone in on my concepts and even learn a lot more than just my tool and learn so many more parts to this system because I'm working with people all kinds of and I'm using philosophy to really push myself and looking beyond and learning new ways of really like engaging in therapy and making it more special. And so that's how I got to where I am today. Here's some insights on how I've gotten to the place that I am right now and why I'm in front of you guys right now talking. And what does this, podcast mean for me, and what is this all going for? And again, it's a way for me to communicate, my thoughts, my philosophies about life in a way that is natural for the way I talk, the way I feel, the way I engage. And I can express myself to other people and get my insights out there. I want to help people. I want to be somebody that opens up that light. So when I was a kid, again, I went to therapy and I felt alone. I always wanted a mentor. I would look for one, and I would try to find one, and it was like nobody wanted to mentor me. But it was okay. Like I found ways to like work through it. I guess the best mentors I had was people in World of Warcraft. So I was playing WoW back in the day, and they were like the guild leaders or whoever. The people that were in charge were like my role models in some ways, I guess. And so that really pushed me to want to open up people's light and be a guiding light for people and open up that ability to change and see a different perspective, just like I had been given that light. And so sometimes I saw myself as a tree, and my branches were like the people that I helped. And so I'm a part of their story now. Like I could have been a lot of things in my life, and I'm just I'm the branch. I'm the base of the branches that come out, and they're all like the different things I could have been in my life. And it's like they get to live that story, and I get to be able to piece of it with them, for whatever time we're together on this planet. So that's me in a nutshell. As I continue on with my podcasting, we'll talk about more specific stories and stuff like that. A little bit about my background. My dad is American. He's from Indiana, and my mom is Mexican. She's from Tijuana. So I'm actually a dual citizen, and I grew up and throughout my life in the U.S. and Mexico. Some years I was here, some years I was there. So it just kind of depended on what was going on and what was on my family. My dad was in the Navy for 20 years, so he was deployed a lot. He was an aircraft mechanic. My mom was a preschool teacher, so that's my background. Why I got into preschooling, because she was like, it's a good job, and it's consistent, and you get vacation, and you can come work for the federal government. I was like, sounds good enough. And I'd already volunteered as in the Boys and Girls Club when I was like a teenager as like a role model. I had been I volunteered at the preschool to help my mom at her preschool, and just to get hours for what was it called, community service from my school and stuff like that, like different things. So it was like I had been out there and about, kind of like trying it. And then I went to school for it, like I said, just to get my AA to have something. And then I got my BA in it because it was like, well, I can just it's the same field as psychology. There was a brief time I thought about being a teacher, but then nah, like being a male in that environment is fucked. Like it is a fucked experience, dude. I can't tell you how many times like I would get questioned just for being a fucking dude. Like it was so like, and I understand there's bad people, but it's like, dude, like I'm only doing this because my mom was like, say it's an easy, consistent job while you're in college. I was like, what the fuck am I dealing with? And so yeah, it was hard, man. I didn't understand women back then, and uh, it was hard, man, because they'd always be making comments about me or feel like I was like against them and stuff. I would get like, you didn't say hi to me, you said hi to her, and then I'd be weird because like if I was too nice to them, it'd be weird for me, and I even got like threatened once to get shot by some boyfriend because I had texted her I didn't want to go out to the birthday party that they invited me to. It was just fucking crazy, dude. And I gave a girl a compliment once, and she fucking told on, and I said that I made fun of her accent. I was like, no, dude, you speak really good English. Like I was complimenting her for her English because she wasn't even from here. She was from deep like Mexico, and I'm Mexican. I was like, what the fuck is she saying? Like, soy mexicana, güey. ¿De qué estás hablando? Te estoy dando un complemento. Like, what the fuck? And I'm getting looked at like, oh, you offended her. What the fuck did I say? Why is she getting offended? Like, fuck, dude. And then, like, I would be the teacher, like, in the classroom, having a good fucking time, chilling, having a great vibe. And I'm the one, oh, you're too loud. You're too, like, nothing actually, like, the substance of my teaching was never a fucking problem. It's how I taught. And then I had preschoolers that were reading, that were fucking talking about 3D shapes, that had emotional regulation skills. They were able to recognize, they understood pattern recognition. Again, they were reading by the age of 5, and then not like a copy paste, like actually reading new words and putting things together and conceptualizing things. My kids do algebra, right? I got a whole like Facebook page about like stuff, projects I used to do and stuff, like things I used to do. And I would always the parents loved me. Parents were cool with me. Not all of them, because some of them, again, like they have biases towards men, and I get it. Let's be honest, there's some fucked men out there, okay? I've dealt with my own sexual assault and bullshit. Men are fucking assholes, all right? But I don't consider those people men. I consider them boys. Because the boys are assholes. Men know what's up. Men know how to respect. Men know how to keep a boundary, right? Hey, respect goes both ways, fool. So, right, that's fucking important. These fucking people don't know how to respect. There's some fucking boys out there who act so fucking stupid, right? No fucking thinking, just pure feelings. Oh, do whatever the fuck you feel. Yeah, you don't think, dude, I can tell, right? So when you've dealt with shit yourself, you've dealt with all the fucked up bullshit, of course it fucks with you. Of course it gets to you. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't be talking to you right now if I didn't go through those things. But there are some fucked men, all right? Just like there's fucked women. There's fucked people. But again, to say that's not a thing, no. And what happens? These people, the people that are taking it out on me, they're also fucked too. Why? Because they're not going to therapy. They're not getting healed. They're taking out their aggression on somebody else. That's not fair to me. I didn't fucking do anything. Because I fucking exist as a man. You're intimidated by me? Fuck you too. Right? Especially with context. I have a fucking education. I have a license. I've been teaching for years. Okay? If you see a fucking weird vibe, cool, then let me know. But don't fucking come at me just because I'm a fucking dude trying to find something wrong with me. Let it come out naturally. Don't fucking overthink a situation. What if he's just faking? Shut the fuck up. Take some time to think about it. Calm down. Explore. Think. Okay? I'm not saying there's not something wrong yet, but let it happen organically. Don't fucking try to make a problem. And this is the problem that you're dealing with sometimes, is that people don't fucking think. And that's another problem we have. That's why I'm here to teach you guys. That's why I'm here to talk about, how the brain operates and what we need from life and really lead people. Because again, I have been through some fucked up prejudice, fucked up bullshit for just being a dude. That was it. Nothing else. Never was mean to these people. Never said nothing. Never went out of my way to disrespect. Never hit on them. Didn't do shit. But because I'm a fucking guy. Yeah, it works both ways. But again, I'm here now to help understand, to help create a community of gentlemen. Okay? We're gentle, but we're still fucking men. That's the difference. This isn't a fucking boys club. I don't want fucking boys here. I want men here. I want people that don't know everything, that are willing to fucking learn some shit, that are willing to have Socratic seminars and talk about things and philosophize, look deeper, not fucking think you know everything. We know everything. Well, then, fuck you. Go live your life over there in ignorance. You ain't a fucking man. You're a bitch. But you know what? At the end of the day, that's how I see it needs to go, right? You don't want to grow up. You don't want to be a man and learn how to take a step back and look at reality for what it is. Understand how we affect people and how they affect us. Understand the bigger picture. It's literally called the bigger picture. The bigger person. Being the man is the bigger person, right? And so this is important for us to be able to move forward in life. We need to be able to take accountability for our own actions. Use that pain as a mechanism to grow. That's the problem, right? So I want gentlemen. We need that. We need more of a place in the community, in this place, in the society. Now I have a lot of reasons I think that we're in this predicament. I have a lot of concerns, for what men are taught and what misinformation's out there. But the only way to combat that is to create your own platform where you teach the right stuff. You teach people how to understand themselves. You give sensible feedback, sensible knowledge, common sense, as we say. I think that's gone. I think common sense is gone because you know what common sense requires? These two things to work in conjunction. Because it's common sense, right? Understanding like the commonalities and making sense of it. Common sense, right? What? Duh. Okay, great. But the only way to get a duh is to put these two together. Because if these two are not working, your little receptor's off, right? If your thinking brain and your feeling brain are not synchronized, you are going to have a hard time. Now, another thing, I'm going to go over a quick synapse of my tool, and this tool that I've been talking about, so that we can kind of have some insight here. I'll do an abbreviated version of it because I think it's important to know. 1 to 5 years old, you are a child. We'll start as little kids or children when we first start. Or 0 to 5 is whatever you want to call it. 1 to 5, 0 to 5. So this stage is when we're feelings. We're just feelings. Just that we are feeling little people. I bathroom potty dance. I'm making fists. I'm rubbing my eyes. I'm hungry. I'm scared, right? All these different emotions. They don't know what they're feeling. They just feel it. It's our job as parents, as adults, to recognize the emotion and give them an alleviating behavior. Hey, yo, go. You hungry? Go eat. You're tired? Go lay down. You mad? Go take a break. Recognize the feeling, provide a behavior to alleviate that feeling. So that brain, your feeling brain, that's your stomach. When someone's lying to you, you feel it here. Mad? Sad? Anxiety? Right? Love? Oh my God. Right? Stomach. That's where you feel. It's your little kid brain. This is our feeler brain. We all have that. That's what makes us human. So then that connects all of us at the end of the day. We all feel. Because without feelings, you start to feel like a robot, not a human. So, feeling brain. 6 to 11, and this is also your depression brain. I call this the depression brain because kids get mopey when they don't get what they want. So 6 to 11, that's the next brain. It's your ego. Your ego is when you start developing like who you are, right? Your individuality, you could call it, like your consciousness. Like I like this, I like baseball, I like soccer. Like you're really just figuring out who you are and what you are. So this is what I consider your heart, your soul, your spirit, the person that you are. So this thing, when you have your heart desires something, you put a lot of effort. When your heart doesn't desire it, you put no effort. So your behavior is based on your spirit. When your spirit's good and strong, it moves forward. When your spirit's broken, it's disconnected. But your heart breaks in two, and there's a reason for that. It's your kid brain and your adult brain breaking. Because here's the next one, right? 12 to 24, which is your superego, is the other word for it. The kid brain's the id, but the superego or the adult brain. That one's from 12 to 24, and that has 3 different developmental stages. So the first stage, 12 to 15, that's peers, friends, comparison of other people. Like, I'm sitting there comparing myself to everybody. What it's like, and that's gonna your whole life to do that. 16 to 19, you're now thinking about your future. What am I doing with my life? Like, where am I going? Like, you start thinking about life. College, right? Moving out, moving to a different place. Am I going to stay with my girlfriend or boyfriend? Like, what do I want from life? You know, thinking about stuff. The next stage, now you're looking at what you're doing with your future, right? Future tripping. Oh, not future. The last stage is going to be 20 to 24. And this is the stage where you start being independent. So independence is I'm moving out. I don't want to live here anymore. I want to do my own rules. You're really starting to figure out who you are in this world. Like, I need to figure myself out. So at the end of 25, you now have this adult brain. And this is your anxiety brain. This is the one that's like, oh God. So if you lack independence, you lack a good future, you lack some self-respect, you're like, I'm going to die. Like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. How am I going to do that? That's how anxiety works, right? So you got your depression brain and your anxiety brain. This is the feeling and this is the thought. Another way to think about CBT, right? Thoughts, feelings, behaviors. Another way I look at it spirituality-wise, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, okay? It's the same stuff. What does the Father do? Take care of others. What does the kid do? You know, it's me, the flesh. And what's my spirit, right? It's what drives me. It's the thing that, you know, takes me to the next whatever plane of existence. I don't know. That's what it is. It's just who you are and what you are at this right moment. Like every movie, right? Your heart goes out and your spirit starts flying away. That's just how we see this item, this object, right? So that's how I see development, right? So we feel, we think, we behave, okay? Good behaviors, bad behaviors, right? So depending on how you are, what behaviors you choose to do, how you decide to act, and a little bit about how you take on, you know, the future. So that's some examples of you know, the way that the brain develops over time. There are some differences in how the brains operate. When you drink alcohol, it's pretty easy to see that the kid brains, the child, like what do people act like when they're drunk? They act like children. I want this, emotional, self-destructive, whatever. Driving cars when they shouldn't be, calling people when they shouldn't be, buying things they shouldn't be. But I like to call that the addict brain. That's the little kid brain. Little kid brain is whatever little kids want, what little kids like. They say this, I love you, I hate you, don't leave me. You know, that's little kids for you. So that's the, you know, the child brain. And then, you know, the adult brain's the productive one, the one that's trying to make sure everything's in line and getting done. And, you know, it's the thinker brain. It's like, if you see a piece of cake, your little kid wants it, but the adult's like, fatty, what's up? You want to eat that shit? You're going to be fat. The kid's like, but I want it. And it's just, there's this debate. Now, what I tell people is, hey, look, you can eat that cake, but you're not going to feel good. Or you can leave that, you can not eat that cake, but you're not going to, all right, you're going to think well, but if you eat the cake, you're not going to feel good, but you're not going to think well. So it's like, let me do it one more time, here we go. So if you eat it, happy here, not happy here. If you don't eat it, not happy here, not happy here. Now, if you cut it in half, it's all fucking another problem. Then you're going to have to deal with eating it later and whatever, right? It's a whole other problem. So, what I recommend people do is you earn that cake, right? You do shit to get to that fucking cake. You're like, I'll do this. Like, I'll go clean my laundry. I'll go get the oil change. I'll go get the groceries, do my workout. If I get home before 5, that's my fucking cake. And so what's going to fucking happen? You go, no problem. I'm going to eat my cake because I did what I had to do to get my cake. And now you're encouraging yourself to be that next step to get your stuff done, right? It's like, I did it. I completed. So it helps people really align themselves with getting things met, getting their needs met, and not feeling bad about it or thinking bad about it. Another way to think of the difference in these brains, when you're driving somewhere, you've been like your house a million times, you don't think about it. Your brain's over here, and your body's autopilot because it's muscle memory. You know where you're going. Like, that's how drunk people get home. They just know where to go. They're like, how'd you get here? They just know where to go. They don't have to think. They just go. So when you're driving somewhere new, you get close to the steering wheel and you turn the radio down. What the fuck? Because your brain has to stress out the body to get its attention. Like, hey, listen to that fucker. Hey, do what I tell you. Now the problem with that is if you have that gripped all day, and you come to a point you're like, I don't want to feel that anymore. Fuck this. Like, I'm burned out. So you're laying there doom scrolling and your brain's like, what are you doing? Get up. And you're just like so burned out you don't care. You're doing whatever you feel like. Okay? And now this is messed up. So when these things are out of whack, you can start to experience burnout because the brain can't control the body anymore. And that's because you're trying to focus too much and you don't have routine in your life. So this is why I tell people 80-20. 80% of your life routine, 20% variety. So 80%, it's the same. Don't fucking change it. It's easy. Just keep it up. 20% variety. You know, it's the dessert at the end of the day. It's the change. Get a different pizza sometimes. You know, get a different soda. You know, variety it up a little bit, right? It's okay. So the reason why you do that is, again, it keeps it spicy, keeps it going, keeps it fresh. So it helps satisfy the adult, which is the productive brain, with the little kid, it's the little fun brain. And we want a mix of that. And the way I set up the schedule is first you want to work, get work fucking done, have some fucking fun, and sleep, rest. And that's the cycle. Work, sleep, rest. If you don't work, you get anxious. And when you're anxious, you can't rest the body. It doesn't feel good. If you can't rest the body, you get depressed. And now I can't sleep because I'm anxious and depressed. So I'm either up all night, like stressing, or I'm empty inside, just laying there. And then I didn't sleep, so then I don't work well because I'm tired. So then my productivity's down. And then my anxiety goes up, which then makes me not play, which then makes me get depressed, which then makes me not relax, which makes me not sleep, which then makes me not work the next. And you live in a cycle. So we need to work, play, sleep. That is the combo that we're looking for. So that's really the thing that kind of comes to full circle with the tool there, is that it really comes down to productivity to solve anxiety. You want to do fun to solve depression, and you want to sleep to solve being tired. And that's like the core elements of the way the body and the brain operate. So that's just a quick synapse of my tool. There's a lot more involved in my tool. You know, obviously it's going to be attached to this channel, so it'll be there for you guys. And this is like the basics of what I want to talk about today. I appreciate everyone that came in for the first day of meeting me and understanding my background and my modality and everything that I've worked for and how I got to where I am today. And I look forward to continuing this podcast and, you know, getting to know what the topics are people are going to need at some point, and just helping people. You know, I want to help the guys. I know there's going to be girls here too, so, you know, obviously I'm here to support everybody, but I just want to be a positive role model for males out there. And so if you know someone who's lost, then they're here to be found. So I will be here for you guys every 2 weeks. I'm planning on doing this, so I'll be here in 2 weeks from now with, again, more topics, new things, and we'll keep in touch. So reach out if you guys have any subjects or things you need me to address or want me to go over in the future. And thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.